Hi, today we're joined by none other than Pakistan Cricket Board Managing Director Wasim Khan. Wasim's had a fascinating start to his tenure at the PCB. He's been there 18 months, overseen a lot of changes. Obviously, from an English cricket point of view, it's been great that he's been able to get the Pakistan team over here for a great summer of cricket, compared to how it could have been with the coronavirus. So I hope you enjoyed this interview. Great insight into Wasim's rise from being a county cricketer through to one of the most important, influential positions in world cricket today. Was fantastic to see you, mate. How are you keeping?
Very good, Daz. Thanks for the invite to this as well. But yeah, look, all really good. I've been in England now for 5 or 6 weeks, having a bit of a holiday as well, but also obviously following the team while I'm here. And because things have been in lockdown back in Lahore, there's nothing I've not been able to get done here, which I would have been doing there. So it's worked out all right.
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Yeah, I think we have got a bit better weather for you.
Yeah.
Just have a sort of recap really on your career and a bit about where you've got to with your position now. Just first of all, just chatting about your playing career. You obviously you played for Warwickshire, part of the championship winning team there, the NatWest winning team. You've then obviously moved to Sussex and had a short spell with Derbyshire. From a playing point of view, you know, how hard did you find it to finish when you were 30 years old? I guess it's a little bit earlier than you would have hoped. But also, do you think that helped you, Was, in the long run, that you finished early and you obviously got a big head start on other the roles that you've taken since?
Yeah, good questions, Daz. I guess that, you know, when I got to sort of 30, my career wasn't going anywhere, you know, and I think sometimes, you know, the hardest thing is actually facing up to the reality of where your career is. You know, I think when you play sport, and you know, in my case, it was professional cricket, you try and hold on for as long as you can, you know, believing that either better days are around the corner or, you know, you worry about what you're going to do post cricket. For me, it was kind of made easy because my career, as I said, when I went to Derby, just didn't go anywhere. And so, you know, moving into sort of the next phase of my life, I'll never forget sort of packing my bags, leaving Derby with my stuff at the back of my boot at the age of 30, thinking, crikey, that's it now for cricket, as far as I'm concerned. Finished now. What am I going to do for the rest of my life? But because for 10 years, I'd gone to Australia and New Zealand in the winters, never gone to university, and cricket was all I knew. So I needed to start somewhere, and I was never very proud. So for me, it was, you know, I wrote to all the local schools and said, look, you know, ex-player for hire, coming in to coach the kids in inner city Birmingham. So I went back there and I did that, and you know, that's where it all started for me. But certainly, I think, you know, finishing at the age of 30 definitely made it easier for me to carve out my next phase of my life.
Yeah, so no regrets there then now.
No, not at all. I think I look back, it's kind of a distant past now. I finished in, you know, nearly 20 years ago nearly. And so, you know, things have moved on in life, and, you know, it's always a reference point for me. And I always remember a great quote that I heard, and it said that, you know, your past is a point of reference, not a place of residence.
Yeah.
You know, so very quickly I moved on and realized that just reminiscing about the old days, you know, it was fine, but I needed to move on at some stage. So my thinking changed massively, and yeah, it was great days, particularly in the 90s at Warwickshire. And, you know, I'll always look back on those really fondly.
Yeah, sure. Who were the biggest influences for you back then, Was, on and off the pitch?
I think that, I mean, firstly, I mean, I got spotted in a playground, Darren, by a school teacher in inner city Birmingham at the age of 13. And I remember he came out during the lunch break and he said, you know, where have you learned to play cricket? I've been watching you through the window. And I said, sir, just watching it on TV. And he said, have you heard of Warwickshire? And I said, no, sir. And he said, look, I'm going to take you for trials for the under 13 to be here at 4:30. And so he kind of helped me quite a lot. Initially, a teacher called Peter Bolland, and I owed a huge amount to him right in my early days. Yeah. And then I was at Warwickshire. I guess I had a lot of good role models around me, lots of good people. You know, so there's probably too many to mention, to be honest with you. It was a very supportive environment. Obviously, Warwickshire were winning at that time, and it was a really, really good place to be, and a really good place to be playing your cricket.
Yeah, fantastic. And then from you obviously you moved to Chance to Shine from from your cricket career, which is obviously to regenerate cricket in schools. You know, it was obviously successful for you. How did you find that, and how important do you think that is still nowadays with the schools? Was
Yeah, look, it really interesting the fact that I got a call out of the blue from a lady, and she said, "Look, are you Wasim Khan?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "I've got the governor of the Bank of England on the line for you." Which I thought, well, my economics wasn't very good at school, and I thought it's too smart for any of my mates to come up with something like that. And so, yeah, and I took the phone call, and he said, "Look, I want to get cricket back into state schools. Your name keeps getting mentioned. Come and see me." So off I went, as you do, to Threadneedle Street, the Bank of England, the following day. Caught the train from Birmingham, went to see him, and he sold this vision about trying to get cricket into schools. So by the time we left DAS after 9 years, we'd raised, I think, £55 million, reached 2.5 million children in about 7,500 schools, which 1 million were girls that we'd kind of impacted. Programs like that were really important because the school space, there was just nothing going on in schools. There was a lot of work the ECB were doing in clubs, lots of stuff going on in county boards and that sort of thing, but nothing really in schools. So there was a real gap there where we were able to exploit, go in and actually make a real difference and try and regenerate and get cricket played again in schools.
Yeah, great. So it was a great experience for you then.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing experience. And to be fair, it kind of gave me a huge step up in my life. Mervyn King gave me the break. Didn't need to back me because I had no business experience. I went in as ops director initially, took over as CEO after 4 years. So I was CEO for 5 years. Also, whilst I was at Chance to Shine, I did my master's as well. Yeah. I did an MBE at Warwick Business School, again, which just has helped me in later life as well with other things that I wanted to do. And luckily I was lucky enough to get an MBE as well for the work that we did in schools and working for the charity.
Brilliant. And then you obviously got your break into first class cricket, the pro game with Leicestershire. Yeah. Obviously Leicestershire, not one of the more fashionable counties, but sort of how useful was that for you? What was your experience? And also was like how important a role do you see the Leicestershires of this world? We obviously like to see Stuart Broad, James Taylor coming through. You know, how important do you see the roles? Because it obviously comes under a lot of scrutiny recently.
Yeah, I mean, first I was hugely indebted to Leicestershire and the cricket and the board there to actually give me the opportunity to go there as the chief executive. I'd been at Chance to Shine 9 years. It's probably fair to say, Daz, that non-test match grounds are a real challenge. I mean, when I went in, Leicestershire had made £1 million worth of losses. You know, we hadn't made a profit for 5 years. And the next 3 years, we generated a net profit. You know, there was a huge amount of work that needed to get done. But it's always tough in those sorts of environments between investing in the things you need to invest, i.e. the team, because if you're not winning matches on the field, then you're not worthy of being a cricket club, because that's what you are. You're a cricket business. Yeah. And so I backed the coaches in terms of the players they wanted to invest in at the time. And so, you try to balance that, and it's always a difficult one with cash flow on a daily basis. The previous 20 years, Leicestershire had been struggling as a county. And so, it was tough, but you know what? It was hugely enjoyable. Great people working at Leicestershire, good coaches. The players were great, and it was a real family atmosphere at Leicestershire. Yeah. And it was a wonderful 4 years that I had there at the club. But Leicestershire, if you think about it, Daz, you mentioned a few of the names like Stuart Broad, James Taylor, you had Luke Wright as well. There's been a huge number of players that have come through the academy system at Leicester. Yeah. At times, I mean, one of the things that you grapple with is to kind of understand what your place is within the county game. So, was Leicestershire's job to produce the players through the academy and just inevitably realise and understand that at some stage you were going to lose some of those players. So Zach Chappell being a prime example. Other players, I think it was Smith and a few others had moved over to Notts over a period of time. And so, it's always had a rich history, and it's really important now that the 18 counties continue, particularly when you're trying to spread the game, because if you're setting up those centres of excellence around the country, cricket has to be accessible locally because of the tribal nature of sports as well. It's always difficult that players, fans aren't going to travel too far to watch teams play. So, we firmly believe that when I was at Leicester and a lot of the non-test match grounds as well, that the counties played a really important part in developing young players for England for the future, which Leicestershire obviously had their history of doing, but also served a really important base within the game and an important role within the game to get youngsters along to watch T20 cricket, inspire them to either become future fans or to want to take up the game as well. So, you want to develop a lifelong love for the game. And the only way, the best way to do it is to get youngsters coming along to an entertainment like T20, get them excited about the game, and then kind of go from there. And that's certainly what, what I believe the likes of Leicestershire and the Northamптons of the world can certainly provide the English game.
Yeah, fantastic. And from your point of view, as you obviously then moved on to the PCB nearly 18 months ago now, that's right. Awful lot going on, a lot of restructuring. One of the first things you had to do was restructure the Pakistan domestic game. I know you come up against sort of fierce opposition at that time.
Yeah.
Seems like it's gone really well. How was that? You kind of chucked in at the deep end there pretty much straight away, baptism of fire. How did you find it, and how's it now being taken on?
Yeah, Daz, when I started in February of last year, that was firmly already, the inroads were already made in terms of the plan of moving from 16 teams to 6, which sounds odd, particularly when I was fighting the course racing counties here. But it was out of my hands. It was already way down the line when I arrived, and then therefore my job then was to really try and make sure we can implement that. There was a lot of opposition. It's a nation of 220 million people. Cricket and politics are the two things. Sadly, they mix a little bit at times. But overall, the culture was very different. In many ways, I was viewed as a British Pakistani, and therefore, not having come from the country, there was a lot of media resistance from certain quarters around my appointments. But look, it's a highly a pressurized role, because cricket, there's 2 cricket talk shows on every single night on TV. That's the level. If you're doing a press conference about announcing selectors or announcing something, they cut the TV channels, and 7 channels will then be showing the press conference live during the course of a day. So that's the sort of scrutiny you get in that particular type of role. But it's been exhilarating. We've managed to deliver that first class structure. The feedback's been fantastic from the players in terms of the quality. We were sitting 7th in Test cricket when I arrived, and so it's really important that in order to move us up that chain, that we've got to change it and base our cricket more on quality rather than quantity, and that's certainly what I think this first class system is going to deliver for us long term.
Great. And talking about quality, the Pakistan have just always created incredible talent base from as long as I can ever remember. At this moment, this possibly looks some of the best talent that's ever come through. Why is that particularly? And also, obviously, what are your sort of plans to keep that continuing and getting Pakistan to the top of a world game? Because it's certainly a possibility for you.
Yeah, it certainly is, Daz, and I think that one of the things we had to do was overhaul the system. So we've actually, the National Cricket Academy has now changed to the High Performance Centre. So we've recruited the likes of Saqlain Mushtaq, who's spent some time with England. We've now got Mohammed Yusuf that we've just brought in as the batting coach within the High Performance Centre. Mohammed Zahid, who used to play a quick bowler for Pakistan, is our fast bowling coach moving forward. So there's been a number of changes we've made. We've got Mushtaq Ahmed, and we've got Yunus Khan now involved with Waqar Yunus and Misbah at the high end in terms of the international team and the boys. So we've made some significant changes. We've put a delivery framework together for what high performance looks like for us. David Parsons has helped us greatly with that. He used to work with the ECP and the high performance in England. And we've got we've developed the Pakistan way moving forward, which is something that will be implemented now through our 6 cricket associations. We believe that, we've got the system now. It will take a few years to really bed that down, and we'll start to see the fruition of that. But, it's, like I say, a nation of 220 million people, Darren. There's no other sport really in the country. Hockey's died away, squash has died away. So cricket now is the only main sport. and so all eyeballs are on that. And you know, it's great because you drive past parks or little alleyways, kids are always playing cricket. You know, we've put a 5-year strategic plan in place now with some very clear pillars about where we want to go with our international teams, and what we want to develop, and putting that high performance system in place was a key element of one of those pillars of making us you know, one of the best teams in the world again. And we're doing a similar thing with the women's game as well, so hopefully we'll see improvements across that.
Brilliant, yeah. It sounds really exciting for the future.
Yeah.
Also, well, I mean, obviously, the English cricketing public are hugely grateful to the Pakistan and West Indies teams for coming over this year, and hopefully VCB are as well. You know, there's quite often friction between international boards. From your point of view, you're obviously you know, well known in England, well known in Pakistan. You've got the contacts there. So how sort of beneficial has that been for you to have that relationship with the ECB, particularly in terms of a summer like we've had with COVID and moving things forward?
Yeah, Daz, look, I think firstly, you know, I got asked the question a lot about, you know, when 10 of your players get tested positive, you know, a week and a half before you're about to get on the plane out of a squad of 29. You know, I guess I was under quite a lot of immense pressure from media and other quarters, ex-players in Pakistan asking why, you know, why we're still going to England, and in the backdrop of, you know, those positive tests and where the world is at the moment. But, you know, it was critical. You know, the word solidarity gets used a lot, but you can't underestimate it at this particular moment in time. And we knew the West Indies were coming first. So, you know, I did sort of keep in touch with the likes of Johnny Graves to see what was happening. And, you know, the ECB presented online to us about the biosecure bubble and how it was going to work. And luckily the players trusted, you know, my judgment on things. You know, I said that we would absolutely do the right thing by you guys. And we certainly wouldn't be putting yourselves at risk. And, you know, we wouldn't have boarded that plane if we didn't think it was safe for the players, and we had full confidence that the ECB would deliver what they said that they would deliver. And the guys have now been here about 7 or 8 weeks, and everything has gone fantastically well. Yeah. You know, and it's been a lot of pressure for the guys because there isn't a lot you can do, and you're kind of stuck in this bubble. But everyone realizes that to get cricket back on, it's absolutely vital that we toured and we followed West Indies. And in my own mind, we'd made it, you know, the decision was already made quite early on that, and no matter who it was, Daz, I think that, you know, it was really important that we got cricket back again, and for fans, for teams, and for the game financially, because, you know, the game could have ended up and could end up in a perilous position. You know, there's certain cricket boards who are struggling financially right now because they've lost lucrative series. If you don't play against some of the big teams, then you don't get the broadcasting revenue, which is really the engine that drives your finances. So, you know, there's a real knock-on effect for countries. And so maybe it's a time now, Daz, that, you know, the global game needs to recalibrate, look at the financial distribution model to make sure that if anything like this happens again in the future, that the game is better prepared and, you know, is a bit more stable financially, so that you don't have countries who are struggling. And that's something for, I guess, the board of the ICC to look at.
Yeah, very much so. I was just going to ask you, what's sort of been the biggest challenges you've come across so far, and what sort of changes in world cricket would you like to see in the future?
Yeah, Daz, look, when I started in February last year, you know, there's 3 key goals. One was around trying to implement the new domestic structure. The second was to get the whole of the PSL played in Pakistan, so we can bring the whole tournament back. And thirdly, was to get Test cricket back. So fortunately, in 12 months, you know, we were able to deliver on all of those 3 things. So with the MCC coming as well as I guess, the non sort of Asian country, if you like, or a club or a setup, you know, it was it was a big step forward for us. You know, a lot of the county lads came, and I think their perceptions changed when they came to Pakistan, and as did the 35 overseas players who played in the PSL. You like to see Shane Watson's, your Jason Roy's, and, you know, Shane Watson said, you know, he commented that it was one of the safest places now to play cricket because of the security and where the country was right now. So, you know, from that point of view, Daz, those 3 things were important. We had Tom Harrison, the CEO of the ECB, come over for a visit, as did Cricket Australia CEO, as did Warren Dutram from Ireland as well, and the chairmans. So, you know, we've managed to make good progress. in terms of the things that we wanted to do, and get people coming over, experiencing what there is in Pakistan. It's a beautiful country. We're as safe as anywhere in the world. You know, we saw in New Zealand and Sri Lanka not long ago that, you know, that terrorism exists everywhere and everybody's, you know, in danger. You know, there are good people and bad people everywhere. And I think that, you know, the government have done an incredible job in Pakistan now in really cleaning up all of that to a place now where it's been incident free in the major cities for quite a period of time. So that's from that point of view. And in terms of international cricket, as I mentioned, you know, there's going to be quite a big backlog now of series that need to be replayed as part of the future tours program. So I think first and foremost, they need to be replayed. It could end up being quite a congested sort of world cricket calendar, but I think everybody's now looking for times within the calendar where you can replay series. And when we were lucky, it was only one test match against Bangladesh and an ODI, which we had postponed. So we'll play that again at some stage. You know, some countries have had 2 or 3 series wiped out, which need to be played. So the financial model, I think, Daz, from my point of view, is something that would be great that if the ICC can revisit, just to bring a bit of comfort and a bit of sustainability to many of the countries who might be struggling.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, I've got a couple more light-hearted questions. You'll be glad to know the grilling side of it's over, mate.
Hopefully not about Birmingham City, but apart from that.
Yeah, we'll veer off that one, mate. What's your favourite cricket ground in the world, Raz?
Favourite cricket ground, Newlands, I would say, is a beautiful ground, and I think the SCG, just for its atmosphere. I think they're probably 2 places I was fortunate enough to either visit or play at. So those 2, I think.
Excellent. In the history of the game, if you could go back and watch any one player and any test series, which would you choose for both categories?
I think I'd love to watch Viv Richards in his prime. I think if I could go back into the 70s, you know, back into the 70s, sort of between 75 and 80. And watch Viv as he was emerging, that raw talent of him. Which team would I have loved to have watched? I think the West Indies again. Yeah. I think particularly in the late 70s, I kind of watched them on TV in the early 80s, but I would have loved to have, you know, you see footage of that test match at the Oval with the Barons sort of outfield. I think Dennis Amy's got a double 100, but I would have loved to have seen, you know, the West Indian quicks in action. And I think that, you know, they have incredible bowlers, you know, Croft, Roberts, you know, Garner, Holding, Marshall, all of these who played during that era. And I would have loved to have, I probably would have loved to have seen them in action, I think.
Brilliant. Yeah. They were same ones when I was growing up, they were, mate.
Yeah.
3 ideal dinner guests.
3 ideal dinner guests. I think, Angelina Jolie would probably be one, but I might need to get a no objection certificate from my wife first before I could do that. And NOC, Daz, as you know, as an agent.
We know they're difficult. Difficult to get hold of, mate.
I'd say I'd put in brackets next to it, subject to an NOC. So that would probably be one. I think that Muhammad Ali, which is always a usual one that people always talk about, and do that, and probably Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who was the founder of Pakistan in 1947. So I think he would be my 3rd guest. So a real cross section of people. Yeah, very interesting to see how they would interact.
Fantastic. And final question, you'll be glad to know. So, I mean, one thing Grant mentioned, of course, you've also got a Wisdom Book of the Year, The Brimful of Passion. You've been county CEO, you had the chance to shine. MD of the Pakistan Cricket Board, still not 50 yet, mate. Still a sprightly 49.
Next February, Daz. It's going to be. It's approaching fast at the moment.
So what's next for? You've got plenty of time to go here, mate. What's next for Wasim Khan, mate? What's the future?
Daz, I genuinely don't know, if I'm honest. And you and I have had these conversations, and it's not sort of trying to hide any ambition, but I think all I've tried to do is. You know, I'm very driven as an individual, you know, and I always try and better myself and learn and get better. And, you know, it's really seeing what comes up. You know, I'm 18 months into a 3-year contract with the PCB, which they offered me. You know, they'd like me to stay on for another 2 years, which they've recently mentioned. So it's just a case now, just weighing up the options and seeing where things are at. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing at the moment. It's not very often you get something, get to do something that stirs your soul.
Yeah.
And, being involved in such an exciting, place like Pakistan cricket, you can't imagine the ups and downs you have in any given day, but, the ups definitely outweigh the downs, and it's great to be involved in that. But we'll see what happens, Daz. You don't want to set your goals and say, I want to be doing this in 3 years or 5 years. I just enjoy what I'm doing, because if I set my goal in my own mind to that, that's all I'm aiming for. And I don't want to miss the journey that I'm having at the moment, and enjoying every day what I do, and whatever comes will come. I've always been a firm believer that whatever happens to me will happen for the best. And, thankfully, to God, that everything that has happened in my life post cricket, everything has fallen into place. And so, yeah, let's see what's next.
Brilliant. Well, I really appreciate you joining us, mate. Big congratulations on the amazing things you've achieved in such a short space of time. And keep up the great work, and keep in touch, mate.
Thanks, Daz, and thanks for inviting me.
It's a pleasure.
Cheers. Thanks very much. Cheers, mate.
Thanks for joining us again. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you enjoyed listening to Wasim and his story so far. As always, please subscribe. We've got plenty more content coming your way. Thanks for listening. Bye now.